Hi everyone, this is Mentor Tuba. I am back with the explanation of a very interesting PMP scenario, and this time I have brought a scenario related to risk management. Um, I am going to read out the scenario first and then we will discuss in detail. The situation says that as the project unfolds, the team identifies a new significant risk that threatens the completion of the current sprint. To address the risk, the team devises an appropriate, cost-effective, and realistic response and has it approved by the relevant stakeholders. However, after the risk materializes, no action is taken and the sprint fails. What did the team most likely forget to do? We have four option choices in this case. Option A says that the probability team has forgotten to assign a threshold or tolerance level to the risk, or they probably have forgotten to assign an owner to the risk, or probably they forgot to assign a trigger to the risk, or they probably forgot to assign a fallback plan to the risk. Right? Before we proceed forward with the explanation, I would like to know that which option would you go for if you are going to face the same or similar situation in your project risk. Do tell us in the comment area. Okay, so let's get back to the scenario. I'm going to point out the important terminologies in this scenario so that we focus on that while discussing the option choices. So they identified a new risk, that's one thing. And they came up with an effective response plan to that risk as well, and that response plan has been approved. So the risk identification, its qualification is the risk register, its assignment of response plan, response strategy, all has been done, right? So far so good. As per the risk planning process. So the risk planning, the risk identification, the risk analysis, the risk response planning, all of that has been done. From a planning perspective, no problem in there. Now the actual problem statement. But when the risk materializes or when the risk occurs, no action has been taken. Even when we had like the clear understanding of the risk and its response plan and how we are going to go about it if this risk is going to occur, still no action has been taken. And accordingly, as a result of, as a consequence of that, the sprint failed. Right? So this is our problem statement that we have. So definitely there is some problem with the risk process that we had followed for this particular risky situation. And this is exactly the ask of the question, that what did the team actually forget in this situation about the risk. So let's check the option choices one by one. Assign a tolerance and threshold level to the risk, which is option A. Tolerance and threshold is an agreed upon deviation to something. Like, for instance, if the risk is about cost overrun. So maybe the cost overrun risk is identified, and in accordance to that, we also know that, for instance, if the cost overrun is somewhere within 5% of agreed baseline, then this is okay. But if it is going outside 5% bound, then this is not okay. And if it is breaching 10%, then this is probably a deadly risk. So that level of agreed upon deviation or agreement for that particular area in the project is what we term as tolerance, and the absolute upper bound or lower bound to that edge, lower or upper edge, upper and edge is the threshold level. So the problem over here is that whichever action step has been decided, the action has not been taken. So even if it is about the tolerance level, and even if that tolerance level has been rightly assigned, if the action is not going to be taken on that tolerance level, what's the point of having that, right? So probably assigning a tolerance or threshold level to certain risks are important, but probably in this case, like having a tolerance level or not is not going to probably resolve that situation. So option A, although from a risk management perspective is important, but in this particular situation, it's about the execution, the implementation of that risk. The problem is with the execution of that risk. So probably A is not going to help you with that, even if it is going to be there with the risk. Let's move to option B. Option B says assign an owner to the risk. Every risk should have an owner. Like absolutely every risk should have an owner until and unless that risk is a low priority risk. For low priority risk, you may have an owner, you may not have an owner, because low priority risks usually do not demand any response plan. Right? They are just there in the watch list, and probably somebody who is like the owner of the overall process, which usually is a project manager, they just keep an eye on that on those risks until and unless they become more prioritized or more critical in the project. So if the risk is a significant one, this is clear that this is not a low priority risk. This is definitely a high or critical priority risk. Nowhere in the situation we had asked, we had talked about having an owner to the risk. We just talked about knowing the risk, addressing it, coming up with a response plan, and getting it approved from the stakeholder. But where is the ownership? Where is that person who is going to keep an eye on that risk? It's different attributes associated with that. Like when is that time to apply the response plan, which is option C. We are going to talk about it. How we are going to apply that response plan, which different team members or which different stakeholders we need to interact with. The owner, the accountable person to that risk, is going to take care of that. So assigning an owner to the risk is directly related to its effective implementation when it's the right time to apply the response plan to the risk or the action step to the risk. So B is a very good choice in this case, because probably we are missing an owner. Even if everything is in place, but the owner is not there, then who is going to take that responsibility that yes, now I am the person who knows that now is the time to apply the response plan or that action step to the risk. So B is a very good choice, but let's check the other options. Maybe we have even better choice than B. Option C, assign a trigger to the risk. Trigger, what is the trigger to the risk? Trigger is an alarm sign. Is like an event or situation that notifies or alarms to the project team, more specifically to the project, through the risk owner, that now is the time to apply that response plan or action step to the risk. Right? So again, even if the trigger to that risk is there, but the owner is not there, then who will be taking the charge that yes, now this trigger condition has occurred and now is the time to take the action to the risk. And if we are not going to take it, then the risk, like the threat or the risk would occur, and that may negatively impact the project. So having the trigger is important, but having an owner who monitors and who keeps an eye on that trigger is way more important than having a trigger. So yeah, option C is not better than option B. So we will keep option B and we will check that what we have in option D. Option D says assign a fallback plan to the risk. Fallback plan is a plan that comes into picture when your primary response plan is not effective or it's not working as per the expectation. Right? In this situation, the problem is that once the risk materializes, no one is going to be there to take the action. No action is being taken, or the primary action has not been taken. So we don't know if the primary action was effective or not. We will only get to know when the primary action is going to be into execution. So fallback plan may or may not be needed, but who knows? We will only get to understand that when the primary contingency response plan is going to be applied. So maybe a fallback plan is needed, but the fallback plan or its absence is not the reason why the situation has occurred. The reason why the situation has occurred is the absence of the owner. It's about you know the missed execution, not the missed alarm sign, or not the missed notification, or not the effectiveness of the response plan, the primary response plan. I mean, it's not about that. It's just that nobody is owning that risk. And if somebody is there, then that person is going to be responsible for the tolerance and threshold, and the trigger sign, and the fallback plan, and the secondary risk, and the residual risk, and everything associated with that. Okay? And he would be understanding that the primary response is effective or not, or when is the time to go to plan B or plan C. Okay? So yes, option B is the right answer to this question. Having a risk owner is very, very much important, and this is exactly what we are missing over here. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you like the explanation. I will be back very soon with the explanation of another PMP scenario. Till then, take care. Goodbye.